I was making coffee when my phone buzzed. It was a video message from Mr. Marco Rivera, our old neighbor back when we lived in the Esperanza neighborhood. I hadn't kept in touch with him since we moved away when I was 16. Just seeing his name flash on the screen made my heart race. The message lasted only a few seconds. No greeting, no explanation. Just one line. "I can't believe what I just saw. My deepest condolences, Amelia." A chill ran down my spine. With trembling hands, I tapped on the video. A church appeared. I recognized it instantly. Santa Luisa Cathedral, where my parents used to take me on Christmas Eve. The camera shook slightly, then zoomed in on two people standing solemnly on the wooden platform in front of the altar. My mother, dressed in a jet black gown, high lace collar, a string of black beads swaying gently with her breath. She dabbed at her tears with a silk handkerchief. My father, cold, wearing a charcoal gray suit, holding a sheet of paper, reading each word in a low, steady voice. Behind them was a closed casket. Next to it, a large portrait of me, Amelia Varela, age 27, smiling in a walnut frame, surrounded by white wreaths. I was sucked into the screen, couldn't breathe. "She was always a troublesome child," my father's voice rang out, "but we loved her. We did everything we could." I stumbled, clutching the edge of the kitchen counter. My vision blurred, my heart pounded wildly. Though Amelia left us too soon, we pray for her soul to rest in peace. He looked up and stared straight into the camera. No emotion in his eyes. I was alive. I was breathing. So who was in that casket? And why were my parents burying me with a lie? I replayed the video a second time, then a third. Each detail became more terrifying. My mother's gestures are meticulously calculated. My father's speech was smooth, as if rehearsed many times. No real tears, no cracking voice, just a flawless performance. I set down my coffee cup, staring at the phone. Why would they do this? I whispered, as if asking myself. Imagine living your life, making your morning coffee, then receiving a message telling you that you've died. Not a prank, not a mistake. Your entire family is standing in a church, mourning, reading your obituary, at your funeral. And the worst part? You're still alive. The real question isn't why they did it, but what they're hiding. A respectable family, a mysteriously missing daughter, and a funeral staged like a theatrical play. When Amelia decides to return, no one at home suspects that the door to the past will burst open with a storm of truth. This isn't just a comeback. It's the final showdown between deception and the survivor. This is the story of a woman who comes back to face the horrific truth her own family created. A funeral not meant for the dead, but to bury the truth. My name is Amelia Varela, 32 years old, once a successful woman with a dream job. I was an event planner, always busy with a packed schedule and lavish meetings. My life seemed perfect, but no one really knew me. I was born into a family with strict standards, where every mistake was punished, with no chance for redemption. One day, they threw me away as if I had no more value, for a mistake I never made. I hadn't spoken to them in years. Ever since the day they slammed the door shut, locked it from the inside, and threw the key down the dark well of their fake honor. I was treated like a thorn to be plucked from the family tree, a shameful memory to be erased without mercy. But staging an entire funeral? Standing before hundreds of people to declare I was dead? The more I watched, the tighter my chest became. My mother, acting as if she was performing a tragic drama, eyes glistening, voice trembling with sorrow. But no, I realized, it was acting. There was no genuine emotion. Every word they said was measured. as if rehearsed all week. She spoke of a tragic accident. I shuddered. There was no accident, no illness, no bad news. I was still here in the flesh, alive, breathing, existing. My father was ice cold, holding the obituary, reading the pre-written words with trembling hands. He said I had lived my final years in isolation, lost and in pain. I let out a strangled laugh. I worked at a small cafe, chatting with customers every day, studied French at night, and cared for a stray cat that showed up on my balcony. Isolated, Number I lived a quiet life, but never a dead one. They knew I was alive. I was sure of it. So why stage this play? I sat down, slowly. The video kept playing. As the camera panned across the crowd, I recognized almost every familiar face. Aunt Marianne, Uncle Marcus, distant relatives who used to smile at me during every holiday. Even my old piano teacher from when I was 8. They were all there, all dressed in black. All believed I was dead. Not one person, not one, tried to confirm it. No one sent a message asking, "Emilia, what's going on?" No one questioned it, not even a little. They swallowed the whole performance and applauded. I watched the video at least 10 times. Each time, my emotions rose like crashing waves. I wasn't forgotten. I was erased. They didn't just remove my name from the family. They buried me while I was still alive. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't a mistake. This was intentional, a decision. I used to believe that family meant unconditional love, that no matter what happened, those people would always protect me, stand by me. That belief, now it's just a fairy tale I stopped telling myself. 3 years ago, they pushed me out of their world like someone clearing trash after a party. No apology, no hesitation, just a gentle kick, and I disappeared. It all started with the embezzlement case. Nearly $80,000 vanished from the family business account, without a trace. I didn't do it. I know it. They know it. My younger sister, the golden child of the family, perfect in our parents' eyes, an angel in everyone else's, the one who never did anything wrong, at least on paper. Vivian had withdrawn nearly $80,000 from the family's business fund. She spent like she was living in a glamorous movie. Designer bags, Swiss watches, luxury vacations, and not enough money to cover it. When the books started to look suspicious, they needed someone to take the fall, and I, the least loved one, was the easy choice. I still remember the way my mother looked at me, like I was a stain on a white sheet. She said without blinking, "Better to ruin one daughter than 2. My father, the one who taught me how to ride a bike, who walked me into my first classroom, didn't even look at me when he said, "From now on, you are no longer our daughter." The next morning, I left. Not a cent in my pocket, not a goodbye, only a vast aching silence. I tried to reach out. I texted. I called. I sent letters. No response. I was blocked. I tried to seek the truth from people who used to call me a friend. They avoided me like the plague. I became a shadow, a shameful secret no one wanted to admit. And like all the broken, I ran. I left the country. I changed my name. I worked in a small cafe where no one knew who I was. No social media, no selfies, no proof I ever existed. But deep down, a tiny, foolish part of me, I kept waiting, hoping one day someone would knock on my door and ask if I was okay, that this was all just a misunderstanding. But that day never came. Instead, came to a funeral. Last year, I tried logging into my old email. Couldn't get in. I contacted support. They said, "The account has been deactivated due to the user's death." They had declared me dead, not just emotionally, but on paper, in the system. Online. I was no longer Amelia Varela. I was a dead file, a name erased. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. In my head, the video replayed over and over like a twisted funeral chant. The coffin, my father's voice. My mother's tears were fake, like everything else she ever said. My funeral. Without me. And then, I understood. Something wasn't right. There was something deeper than family honor. First, I called Aunt Marianne, my mother's older sister. We hadn't spoken in years, but during family gatherings, she'd sneak me candy. Those rare moments where I felt genuine affection. She answered on the second ring. Aunt Marianne, it's me? It's Amelia. Silence. Then a click. She hung up. I called again. Blocked. I tried reaching out to my cousins. One replied with a thumbs up and never said another word. Another asked, "What kind of sick joke is this?" No one believed I was still alive. Except one, my youngest cousin, Odd. He used to look up to me when we were kids. He messaged back hesitantly. "Amelia? Are you really alive?" I replied, "Yes." "I need to know the truth." What did they tell everyone? The typing bubble blinked for a long time. Then he wrote, "They said you died in a car accident abroad 3 years ago." My heart dropped. They had made up a story, said it happened while I was traveling, that it was too late to bring the body home. Cremation, closed casket. I almost dropped my phone. I'd never been in a car accident, hadn't even owned a car the whole time I lived abroad. Something inside me cracked. I pulled out every document I had, passport entry and exit stamps, rental agreements, immigration records. I had never had an accident. I was never missing. So I checked the online public records office, and then it appeared. Date of death for Amelia Varela, July 16th. Cause, traffic accident. Status, deceased. Death certificate number, ARF 91327. They forged it. They made me legally dead. I stared at the screen, frozen. This wasn't grief. This wasn't denial. This was a cover-up. But what were they hiding that was worth burying me alive? I should have stopped. But once you realize your family buried you alive, you have to know why. I found the answer in the place I hadn't dared to look for years, Vivian's Instagram. She had made her account public again. And there, a glittering carousel of photos. White roses, champagne towers, a diamond the size of a planet, Vivian's wedding. Everyone was there. Aunt Marianne was beaming like she hadn't hung up on me. The cousins raised their glasses in celebration. Even Uncle Gregory, who lived overseas and never showed up for anything. Everyone was in those photos except me. Not a single mention, not a single picture, not even a caption saying, "Wish Amelia were here." Just silence. Like I had never existed until I looked closer. In one wedding photo, someone was giving a speech. Vivian's husband was smiling, and next to him stood my father, glass of wine in hand, speaking into a microphone, smiling beneath the caption, "To the only daughter we're proud of." That was the turning point. This wasn't just forgetting. I'd been replaced. Curious, I checked the family business registration system. A few clicks, and my blood ran cold. The trust fund my grandparents left for me for college, for starting a business, had been transferred to Vivian 6 months after my death, legally, quietly. She didn't mourn me. She profited from my death. I stared at her glowing face in that shimmering wedding dress under the sun, and I understood. My sister didn't just replace me. She erased me. Enough. If they wanted me dead, they were about to see just how vividly I could live. The next morning, I walked into a lawyer's office with a folder full of documents and a fire blazing in my chest. Stamped passport pages, employment contracts, tax records, rental agreements, plane tickets, every undeniable proof of my existence. The young lawyer across the desk started, stunned. "You're contesting your own death?" I slid the fake death certificate toward him. "I'm not dead, but I plan to haunt them until they wish I were." He blinked, looked at me intently, then nodded slowly. "Then we start with a fraud complaint and a petition to nullify the death declaration. Legally, undoing a death certificate would take time, a lot of it." "I don't have time," I cut him off, eyes unblinking. "Because apparently, there's a memorial service for me this Sunday." He looked up, eyes wide in disbelief. I didn't give him a chance to respond. "Not just for me, for my death. I'll be attending." That night, a message popped up from an unknown number. Just one line. "They're holding your memorial this Sunday at St. Albans Church." No name, no explanation, but I knew immediately. The church, the address. It was real, and so was my plan. That night, I stood by my apartment window, city lights glittering below me like sparks waiting for gasoline. They had buried me in silence, lied in ways that broke me, but now I had a stage, a place for them to cry, to mourn, to perform, and I was going to be there, to watch. I would not let them get away with it. The next day, when I arrived at St. Albans Church, the place was packed. Cars lined the street, a crowd dressed in black, red-eyed, holding hands, grieving, sobbing. But I couldn't recognize myself in any of their faces. I was already dead to them. I stood across the street, wrapped in a black coat, sunglasses hiding half my face. A ghost, but one that could no longer be hidden. All I saw before me was a performance, a perfect play about my death. The organ played slow, mournful notes. Candles flickered dimly beneath my photo, the same one they'd used in my fake obituary. They hadn't just killed me in life. They had killed the memory of me. My father stood at the pulpit, his voice cold and solemn. She was lost, but we still loved her. We couldn't reach her, but we never stopped praying she'd come back. My mother sat in the front pew, dabbing her tears with a lace handkerchief, tears that had been rehearsed, her every move too perfect, too polished, chilling. Vivian stood beside her, clutching her pearl necklace like it was the only thing keeping her heart from shattering. "Amelia was complicated," she said, "but she was my sister. I wish I had the chance to say goodbye." Sweet lies, wrapped in tears, all perfectly scripted. I stood outside, close enough to hear the priest's voice. "May her soul rest in peace." I held my breath, steadying myself. Not yet. I couldn't let them rest easily. This play wasn't over. "Please rise for a moment of silence," the priest said. His voice was like a final bell toll. Everyone rose, bowed their heads, closed their eyes. They didn't know they were standing on an empty stage. And in that silence, I pushed open the church doors. The door creaked open sharply, like an undeniable statement. Cold light from outside flooded the aisle, casting a spotlight on the path. And I stepped inside. Slowly, purposefully. Each step echoed like a hammer, as if I was extinguishing every sigh of those I once called family. The marble floor resounded with the sound of my footsteps. Clack, clack, clack. The silence shattered, and the tremors rippled through the crowd. A few turned around, then more and more. Is it really her? No, it can't be." A child's voice, shocked and panicked, cut through the tension. "Mom, is it really her?" I slowly removed my sunglasses, my eyes locked with theirs, wide open, unbelieving, horrified. My mother went pale, her lips trembling. She collapsed to the floor, fainting dramatically, as if she had rehearsed it for years. My father stood frozen, mouth agape, the wine glass shattered beside him. Vivian locked eyes with me, a cold, frozen glare. Her jaw clenched tight, the pearl necklace twisted in her hand, as if it were the only thing holding her together. A full glass of champagne in Vivian's hand slipped and shattered, splashing onto her pristine white shoes. The priest took a step back, stunned, unsure of what to do, stumbling over his words, his voice trembling. Is it really you?" he asked, his voice choking. I didn't stop walking. Every eye in the church followed my every step, as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Am I a ghost, or the reckoning for what they did to me? Maybe both. I said nothing. I didn't need to say anything. My presence alone was the thunder following their lies. The consequence they had prayed for would never come. As I reached the end of the aisle, the room seemed to hold its breath. I turned around to face all the eyes fixed on me, and I smiled. Let the truth begin. I stood before the portrait of myself, the one they had used in the obituary to bury me. I turned back to the crowd. Dozens of eyes stared at me as if I had just risen from the dead. Good. Let them stare. I cleared my throat, then spoke into the silence, quietly but powerfully. I heard, I was dead. But today, I'm here to fix the story. A wave of shock rippled through the room. No one moved. They stood frozen, like statues. Many held phones in their hands, but they forgot to blink, let alone record. No accident, no tragic car crashes abroad, no sealed coffin due to a disfigured body. I pulled out a stack of documents from my coat, heavy with proof, thick, stamped with government seals, with clear international dates. This is my passport, my employment contract, tax records, my lease. I'm still alive. I still work. I still exist. The only thing I lost is them. I turned to face my parents without hesitation. They told the world I was dead. They forged documents, filed a death certificate, and when I was erased from the law, they transferred everything to Vivian. I looked straight at Elena. She still stood motionless, like a stone statue. Her fingers tightened around the pearl necklace, too scared to look me in the eye. My trust fund, my inheritance, my entire life. Vivian mouthed something as if she wanted to say something, but I didn't give her a chance to breathe. Do you like the house you bought with my money? Whispers erupted like thunder, echoing throughout the room. One person whispered, "She has proof." Another gasped, horrified, and then a phone was raised, the light flashing like a warning light, a red dot blinking. Someone was recording. Good. Let the whole world see what this funeral really is. Not a farewell, but a cover-up full of lies. Your parents haven't lost a daughter. I looked straight at my father, never breaking eye contact. They threw her away, and now they'll have to watch her come back. The lies were now just ashes, and I was the match that lit them. I turned away one last time. My father was pale, drained of color, his hands gripping the chair so tightly that veins were popping. My mother still trembled in her chair, completely confused by the lace handkerchief falling from her hand like a white flag of surrender. Vivian empty, defeated, no longer clutching the pearls, just a lost gaze caught in the harsh truth. I took another step closer to them, very gently, but enough to make them take half a step back, and I bowed my head, like a cold ritual. Your parents buried me alive to protect themselves. I spoke calmly without emotion, as if reading an indictment. But I came back to haunt you with the truth. No more shouting, no more lies, only silence. Heavy, decisive, an audience frozen, nailed to the truth. Finally I walked out, my shadow stretching long across the cold stone floor, The church bells began to ring. How fitting. The bells of a funeral. But this time, not for me. Outside, I handed the stack of documents to the lawyer, signed the last page, watched the death certificate torn in half, each piece falling like the end of a curse. My legal resurrection was confirmed. The news began to spread. Media outlets were on it by that afternoon. A local station broadcast the video. The woman declared dead by her family, returns during her own memorial, exposing the entire lie. An investigation was opened. Fraud, false reporting, and embezzlement. I heard that just a few days later, Vivian's bank account was frozen. The mansion was sealed. Their lawyer began making calls everywhere. I just laughed, light as the wind. Sometimes you have to die in their world to be reborn on your own. And this time, I didn't come back to be forgiven. I came back to be free.